If you could change one thing about your home, what would it be? A new kitchen, a new master bath, maybe put in a pool? What if you could do it with no money out of pocket and cheaper monthly payments? SaveWithConrad.com can help, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey, race fans, Hall of Famer Darrell Waltrip here. You know, it's time to drop the green flag on another edition of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. So, hey, pull those belts tight one more time. Here's my buddy Hermie Sadler and Senator Bill Stanley. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's see what they have to say, boys and girls.
I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right.
And I'm former NASCAR driver and Fox Sports television analyst Hermie Sadler, and I am turning left.
This is, why don't you give the name of the podcast?
This is Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, and we are powered by Pace-O-Matic. Pace-O-Matic is focused on people having fun, Senator Stanley.
They are.
But it's also committed to strengthening our communities, supporting local restaurants, bars, convenience stores, and truck stops, because Pace-O-Matic knows small businesses are the heart of our neighborhoods. It's why Pace-O-Matic supports the Smart Racing Modified Tour and this podcast. To learn more about Pace-O-Matic in your community, visit www.paceomatic.com.
How you doing, Hermie?
I'm doing great.
That's good. You know, Pace-O-Matic's out there in Cheyenne, Wyoming right now for the Frontier Days that they have every year. Big event. They're a big
event
sponsor.
For them, yeah.
And we have sent Chris Williams, the director of the Smart Series, out there with the ride-along car, the Pace-O-Matic 22. And so he's on his way out west right there, and he's going to have the Smart drive-along car there for display and maybe even a couple rides down Main Street.
I can see Chris on Main Street.
Yeah.
Out there digging.
Well, you know, he gets to meet some new people, and he's doing it for the Smart Series. He's doing it for the sponsor of the Smart Series Tour, which is also our sponsor for this podcast, and one of our primary sponsors on the 22 car and the 39 car and the 16 Hermie Sadler car, which is still under wraps, but, man, getting ready to come out, isn't it?
Won't be long. Do you want to tell everybody where we are as a group for the first time this year?
Yeah, I want to welcome you, and we'll introduce the sidekick who's back for another week. At least another week, hopefully. But we are at the mothership of the Stanley Law Group. We are at the Holland Duncan House, built in 1798. We're in the conference room. Used to be the old parlor of this old house. And so welcome, gentlemen. It's the first time we've been here. I tell you what, we're like gypsies when it comes to this podcast. We're one place 1 week, another place
whatever
the other.
It takes.
And I tell you what, I love it when we're in person because I think it's really important. It gives us a better feel, and you can see what Shep's emotions are. And we get to bring.
They're running high today.
There's a lot of sensitivity over there, but you know it's good to have you guys here. And in this house, we're very proud to be the stewards of this history, a very historical house in Franklin County, and home of the Stanley Law Group. And you met the staff; they all were waiting outside on the front steps to
no rose petals.
No rose petals.
I'm sorry, we ordered rose petals, but they didn't come in. We were going to make sure that we had them along the wall.
Supply chain issues with
roses.
Okay.
Yeah, but
was it
we're going to
supply
make sure
chain or Chad issues? Which was it?
Well, Chad's had a tough day. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I just want to make sure that your feet never touch the ground when you arrived here to make it special for you. But so you got no rose petals. There was a couple black walnut balls out there that you
had a parade and other things of that nature. It was
we welcome our heroes here, and you're one of our heroes here in Franklin County because you know moonshine started NASCAR, and you are NASCAR.
Yeah,
so. It's kind of a good combo. You're back in your hometown.
So welcome back again, Mr. Moss. Shep.
Thank you.
My first and only question to you is, first, I won't say only yet.
Darn.
Who was holding the fort down at Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Eagle, Ram?
Well, today my sidekick and other sales manager, Brian Norris, is there in charge today. So they are keeping things going while I'm away, having a little fun with y'all doing this podcast.
At Boyd
in South Hill, Virginia.
Now, Boyd's got a dealership, in Emporia? I just wanted to say Emporia.
Also in Emporia. And we have a Honda dealership right next door in South Hill, as well as a Cadillac Chevrolet GMC dealership down in Henderson. So lots of going on.
I love Cadillacs.
Oh, yeah.
Might need a nun.
Who knows?
So, but we love Boyd Chevrolet. We love the Boyd family, and especially in our previous podcast, we've not only had a podcast where we recorded it at the dealership.
That's true, yeah.
But we've also certainly had the history of how Boyd came to own those dealerships that they came through the Sadler man.
The Boyds are good people. They one of the few that have, we've had some pretty large size business transactions between myself and the Boyd family. A lot of it was handshake. A lot of it was, get things done quickly, and I trust you, you trust me, and of all the things we've done, they're one of the families that they have always done everything they said they were going to do, from top to bottom, start to finish. Not only purchasing buildings, and I did some financing for them on some of those transactions and things of that nature, but more importantly than that, taking care of some people that I had up there that had been with me for a long time. And I will say that Brandon and Charles, the whole clan is top-notch people. They do what they say they're going to do. And I talk more to Brandon than the others, but Brandon is a huge supporter, Senator Stanley, of what we're doing, and a huge supporter of small business.
Yeah, and we love them. And when you walk into those dealerships, it's top drawer, it's class. So if you're ever in the market for a vehicle, I think that's one place you got to visit. Henderson,
please do.
South Hill, and Emporia. That's awesome.
And Hermie's right. Brandon's a big supporter of the cause and fighting for small business, and that's one of the reasons he gives me permission to be on these podcasts. He wants to support you and help see this mission move forward, so I'm going to be here as long as the senator will let me.
Well, we love him here. We love having Shep, and we love Brandon Boyd, and we love that dealership. So if you are looking for a car, think Boyd first.
Now, we'll get to the leaning right moment is first.
Yeah.
But before we get to the leaning right moment and the leaning right moment sponsor, can I get a plug in for my turning left sponsor prior to that?
Are you claim jumping me right now?
No, I'm just trying to get my sponsors out.
You're trying to get ahead. Go ahead, please. Please, because it should make for the rest of this conversation.
I will agree.
The coming up later in this segment, the turning left moment is proudly sponsored by the beautiful and talented Laura Stanley with Vista Installations. Laura has been running a successful window and door installation company and babysitting politicians for over 12 years.
Wow.
What a sponsor.
Wow.
I can vouch for that. I can. And Vista Installations has taken a real interest in the open wheel modified Smart Series. So you may see a race sponsorship in one of our North Carolina races coming up very soon, because they do all the installations for Lowe's down in North Carolina, most every area or area. They are really interested in the Smart Series, and they want to bring their installers as well as their Lowe's partners to one of our races. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Awesome.
So that sponsorship might even go further than this one you keep reading over and over.
Well,
on this podcast.
I'm thinking she stepped up to the platinum package, because he keeps promoting her a lot each week, each week.
I'm willing to take one for the team and stand in whatever needs to be said or done to close the deal, make things better, sweeten the pot, you might say. I'm all in.
Oh, wow.
Still not bothering me at all. It's just not registering.
That pot's gotten sweet.
All right, easy.
All right, so and also, before you plug your leaning right sponsor, I want to say that this past week I had a lunch at the Charlie's Waterfront Cafe in Farmville, Virginia, and Mr. Graziano, I had every intention of speaking to him and charging my lunch to him, but he was MIA. He was off baking cookies and cakes and things and selling them, they said.
Yeah, he runs a bakery, too.
Yeah.
And a really good bakery that serves a lot of restaurants in Richmond. So that takes up a lot of his time, so he focuses on that. He has other people that run Charlie's. He's been doing that for years. So he always tries to expand his endeavors, and baking.
Had a nice, sweet waitress named Tessa.
Yes. I know her.
That took care of our table, and we had a good lunch, good service, good food. So that is the lead in for you to
That's great.
Talk about your sponsor.
Before we start leaning right, I do want to say that it's a sad day today. Of course, this is Tuesday. This will drop on Thursday. Thursday's my birthday.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. 55.
And Rick Hendrick's only 29.
I know.
55?
Passing
Double
him.
nickel for the Q-tip.
Yeah, I'm passing him on the left Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm grateful for every day the Lord gives me. But yesterday we had a little tragedy in the Stanley Law Group and Stanley Senate office. My good friend over here, Brad Tuesday, otherwise known by his given name, Chad Monday, had adopted a cat that one of my attorneys here, Autumn Johnson, we love Autumn Johnson, and we love animal rescue, and so she's really into animal rescue and cats, and she'd found some of these cats that were underneath her house, I do believe, and one of those cats was adopted out to Chad, and unfortunately, because of some health issues, he had maybe some heart issues. Pico de Gallo was his name, passed away suddenly, and Chad raced to the emergency 24-hour veterinarian, but it wasn't in time. He confessed for the first time he did about 90 miles an hour in his car, because usually if it's 55, he's doing 37 miles an hour. So you see how important those animals are to him. We hope that he opens his heart. I know it's tough for you right now, Brad, but we feel for you, buddy. But open your heart. Don't shop. Adopt. It's a reminder to us all that there's so many little creatures created by God that can share our love and show us so much light and put that light in our lives. So sorry about that, Brad. And I know he's actually upset about it. And so, me, I came in here ready to tell jokes about that, but I waved off.
I thought you were teeing it up that your staff had run over the cat the way you were introing that.
So Brad sends a text to my wife. Oh, well, I don't get him. All right, look.
He has a sponsor's number too?
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to even talk about it. So he says,
this is a concern to me because I thought I had a proprietary relationship with my sponsor.
I mean, is this a public number? Is this a public number or?
No, it is not a public number.
And here I am going behind Chad.
Well, so anyway, he said, I'll be a little late. My cat Pico died. And I'm, in the bed reading. I'm like, oh no, what happened? So I had all these envisions like your ferrets attacked it or something like that. And then so I made her text back. She's like, I sound so insensitive. So what happened? And I'm like, come on, I want to know what happened. I don't think I can go to bed thinking, what Brad did, maybe ran over the cat or something. But he died of natural causes. So we're sad for Brad. And I offered to sue Autumn for bringing a faulty kitten into his life, but he declined. So, but they do great jobs rescuing animals. You've rescued animals. Brad has. Hermie, you and I have a rescue dogs. And what about you, Shep?
My son has a rescue dog. Yes, that's my grandpup. That is just keeps me on my toes. That I love dearly. Her name is Leia from the Star Wars movie. My son's a big Star Wars buff. Nerd. And he had a solid jet black cat named Vader. Oh. And the dog named Leia.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That took a lot of thinking, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So, in Vigo Beagles today, we'll start leaning right. That's very quickly. This week, they start the 4,000 Beagle evacuation adoption process. We've received over 2,000 calls here at this office at the Stanley Law Group of people in every state in the union. All 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii, have called wanting to adopt these dogs. We put them on lists. We've directed them to the website. If anybody's listening to this is interested in getting on a list to apply for adoption of one of these Vigo Beagles, you can go to www.humanesociety.org/Beagle Rescue, and you can get on a list, find out more information. But those dogs are starting to move out of the Vigo facility in Cumberland, Virginia, and they're being taken out by great people like Sue Bell and Homeward Trails Animal Rescue and the Humane Society and John Raymer. We're just so thrilled to be a part of that, and just it's about time. And so it's a good day for Beagles.
So appreciate that, and I encourage everybody to adopt and do what you can to help us with these Beagles and otherwise. Before we get to leaning right and turning left, I want to make sure announce or preview our upcoming special guest on today's podcast.
Right, big one.
Big one for me especially, and I know Shep, I know also a longtime fan of UNC basketball, and of course I went to school at Carolina, and my daughter Cora cheered at UNC. But Tyler Hansbrough is a good friend, has been for many, many years. We'll talk about some of our stories of having some fun together at basketball games and races and other places. But Tyler Hansbrough is a 4-time All-ACC performer, 3-time All-American, the all-time leading scorer in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference basketball. When you think about ACC basketball, the history of that conference, and Tyler Hansbrough has scored more points in conference than anybody else in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Wow.
And most importantly, he'll tell you, well, second in line is he's a 2009 national champion. They won the national championship over Michigan State in 2009. But I think he will agree, and I'm certainly going to ask him, his most prized possession after his playing days at Carolina was the fact that he was 4-0 over at Cameron Indoor Stadium against the Duke Blue Devils. Never lost to Duke at Duke in his 4 years.
That says a lot.
Pretty proud of that. But a funny bastard, if we can get him to talk.
Well, that's up to you.
We got to find out about the races in other places. That's what we got to get into. So.
I'm going to have Tyler tell y'all the story. The first time me, him, and Eliott and Elliott's business manager, Brett Griffin, who we've had on this podcast before.
Great guy.
I can't wait for Tyler to tell y'all the story. The first night we ever went out when he got drafted by the Pacers, and we were in town for the Brickyard 400, and we all went out to a Blake Shelton concert.
Oh, wow.
And it was outstanding.
Now, is this one of those after 8 p.m. can't say?
Oh, yeah. But I'll let
stories?
Tyler tell it.
Okay. All right. So there's plausible deniability.
Oh,
on the
Lord
version.
have mercy.
All
It
right,
was
very
something
good.
special.
Well, let's dive into our leading right moment. And just as you said, Hermie, brought to you by that delicious place to eat, that wonderful place to hang out with your family, your friends, Charlie's Waterfront Cafe in downtown Farmville, Virginia, right next to the Greenfront Furniture Store. That's the landmark, so it's easy to get to. Downtown Farmville, Virginia. Great food, great fun. Owned by my good friend, great friend, and roommate back in college, Tommy Graziano. Tommy and I have always agreed that we won't tell the stories until we're maybe in the nursing home of our great fun at Hampton Sydney, but nevertheless, he runs a great business. He also has a bakery, and they got the tasting cellar in the basement. So if you want a cake, a glass of wine, and some chicken, Alfredo, then you've hit one place to get all of your needs fulfilled. So Charlie's Waterfront Cafe, a proud sponsor where I didn't have to do much to make that sponsor happen. So thank you to Tom Graziano and people and the wonderful workers, including Tessa, at Charlie's Waterfront Cafe. I know Tessa's family, great. Represent a family on a lot of different things. They're great people out there, and so they hire only the best people that'll serve you right. So we've got a lot. I've just been writing down stuff. Virginia politics goes into a little bit of dormancy. We got the budget done. Everything, we're not going back.
Y'all did a great job with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations.
Well, I wasn't there to vote for it, but I would have voted no.
You did speak out against it.
I did, and I didn't like some of the things they did in it, and I think it wasn't true to our conservative principles, ultimately. But there were a lot of Republicans that felt Virginia needed a budget, and we were going to vote for it even as imperfect as it was. So, you look towards the national screens, and I'm just seeing the left lunacy left and right, and I'm seeing liberal hypocrisy with the Biden administration, but all with Congress and all of these different people. And I just don't know how they're getting away with it. If we do or say some of the stupid things, dumbass things that they're saying right now, we would be ridiculed, shot out of a cannon by the mainstream media. But here, they're just, they brush it off like nothing. They're just being silly or stupid. Joe Biden calls our troops selfish. Well, he's old. And now even the media is saying, oh, he's old. He's old. But before he was the darling could do no wrong, and they're kind of turning. They're eating their young, it seems, or eating their old, it seems right now. But one of the things that really bothered me, and I've got a list of things that bothered me, the left lunacy that we're going to talk about today, is Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, goes out and makes a speech to some Latinx or Latinx. And most Latinos and Hispanics do not like being called Latinx. But this is now the left's new designation for them, and you must like it because it's classy, it's cachet, it's like a brand. So she goes out and makes a speech, and I believe it was in San Antonio, Texas, and she compares the Hispanic people of America to breakfast tacos. Let's give a listen.
But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio, is...
What in the hell is that? I mean, if a Republican, let's say Donald Trump's in San Antonio and go, you Mexicans, Hispanics, you're like cute little chalupas with extra cheese. We would get killed. Would we not, shout?
I'm trying to figure out what happened to her speechwriter. I'm assuming she was fired.
Well, I mean, they don't even give an excuse for that. But then you're again comparing them to a breakfast item, but to a Hispanic food. You're as cute as a breakfast taco. I mean, where they'd go to the Italian community and go, you're as lovely as lasagna. I mean, it makes no sense. And if we said that, then we're racist, homophobic, misogynistic, blah, blah, blah. But if they said, no big deal, right? I mean, Hermie, does it matter anymore that they get away with this stuff? Or is this hypocrisy coming finally to the fore where people are standing up and noticing that the real racism, as I've said in this previous podcast, is not with conservatives? Because conservatives believe, I don't care what you look like, I don't care what you believe in, I don't care if you think you're a guy or a man or a woman. You have an opportunity. Go make the most of it. Have the liberty and freedom that's been granted to us by our Creator. Go be what you want to be. Use the best that capitalism and the free market system has to offer. If you want to own a business, own a business. If you want to be a painter. We just want you to be equal and free. But everybody on the Democrat liberal lunacy side seems to be categorizing everybody here and creating these distinctions. And so the real racism I'm seeing is not from us. It's from the Democrat elite. I mean, Hermie, do you agree with me or am I wrong?
Here's what I think all of us sitting here talking probably have similar views on most things, politically speaking. We share similar views on, the free market, small business. I mean, those things kind of unite us. But one thing I've always kind of tried to remain true to is, even when there have been Democratic presidents and other officials in office, while I may think differently and view things differently, or the reality of my life and my business may be different based on policies or otherwise, I've never pulled for a president or an administration to suck.
To fail.
Yeah. Because that helps nobody. So even when I've been disgruntled, unhappy, confused, sad, mad, whatever the case may be, I've never made a habit of publicly ridiculing an administration. But this administration, it's beyond sad. You look at what you're talking about with Jill Biden and her comments. You look at this trip that Joe Biden took to Saudi Arabia, and I think to myself, what have we accomplished? What are we doing? Mm-hmm. And then on top of all that, nothing's getting done. We're the laughing stock of the whole world. Everywhere we go, we get laughed at. And then so our president, let's just be honest, he can't string 3 sentences together to make a coherent statement. So let's send his wife, Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, out to kind of do some things and maybe try to take the focus off of President Biden, and then she says
she accomplished that.
Stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I don't know whether to be angry or whether to be sad or
scared.
Or what? Or scared. I mean, there's no more perfect word than that. I mean, we are literally going down a black hole.
Well, and it's funny because, their whole concept is, as Barack Obama said, you bring 30 million more voters in, we control it all forever. They were banking on the Hispanic community and those that are crossing our borders to be that buffer for them. But then they're treating that voter, because it turns out that voter, that community, is a lot more conservative than they think. And I'm going to go over some poll numbers here in a second, but this is not an isolated incident where she just calls Hispanics as cute as a breakfast taco.
Well, and all the things that she could have compared them to, the First Lady should be inspiring and uplifting and compassionate. And she's going to compare a group of people who are looking for a better life, trying to better themselves, better the opportunity for their families. Right, wrong, indifferent. She compared them to a breakfast taco.
And this is not just her, because there are Democrat paid advertisers, bloggers, internet, social media advertisers in a race, a congressional race that's coming up this November. There's a sitting congressman, in Texas, Representative Vicente Gonzalez, paid a Democrat-led social media influencer to call his opponent, Republican Mayra Flores, Miss Frijoles, Miss Enchiladas. Wow. I mean, what in the heck? How do they get away with this? Or, as I'm hoping, they're not getting away with it. And I'm going to read you some polling information that demonstrates that they're not getting away with it. In fact, a Democrat pollster called Echelon Insights had conducted a poll, and a pretty extensive poll between Hispanic Americans, Americans, white Americans, black Americans of all types, and they asked them certain questions, and the results were shocking. What they really found in the poll was that white college Democrat support is high. Remember, it used to be split 50-50 between Republicans and Democrats. If you were white college educated, that usually was split. Now it's in the 70s for the Democrats, which to me demonstrates that white elites, just like these people here that are calling a Republican candidate, Miss Frijoles, Mrs. Enchiladas, or you're as cute as a little breakfast tacos, have a lack of respect for the Hispanic community. And so they're falling into this small elite, this small white elite, which is dictating. They're the ones calling everybody racist. They're the ones putting these terms on. But if you look at it, they're pigeonholing everybody. They're putting them into corners, and they're not letting them be who they want to be, which is the American dream. Now, so Echelon Insights does a poll. Here are some of the questions, and here are the results, Hermie, which I think are shocking. First question, America is, to agree or disagree, America is not the greatest country in the world versus America is the greatest country in the world. By 66% to 28%, strong progressives, that is the liberal lunacy, say that America is not the greatest country in the world.
Wow.
By 70, and that's mostly, remember, college elites, educated elites, all these elites in their ivory towers. By 70% to 23%, Hispanics say the reverse is true. That is, America is the greatest country in the world. That's why they're here. That's why they came here, for that better life. Working class voters, remember, and you and I have talked about this, Hermie, before, that I think we are the blue collar class representative as Republicans more than the Democrats always said they were. Working class voters concur that America is the greatest nation in the world by a rate of 69% to 23%. What does that tell you about the Democrat Party? How far out of touch they are?
That's the difference between indoctrination and working for a living.
Here's the next question. The question is racism. It's which one do you think is true? Racism is built into our society, including into its policies and institutions, versus racism comes from individuals who hold racist views, not from our society and institutions. Strong progressives are very, very sure that America is a part of systemic racism. By 94% to 6% believe that America has been created and has evolved in its policies and institution in systemic racism. When they asked Hispanics disagreed. They said that racism comes from individuals who hold racist views, not from our society or institutions, by a 58 to 36% margin. Working class voters, it's about the same, 57% believe that this is not institutional racism. This is actually individuals who may be racist. There is no doubt there are people that hold racist views all across the spectrum. I would say it's a lot less than what it was, but still, if there's one, then there's a problem. But to say that America founded on freedom and liberty and equality, even at the time, because they blame, we had slavery at the time, that was just false, has evolved. We're constantly changing. We're constantly trying to make a more perfect union, as Lincoln said. And yet, Strong progressive white elites believe 97% that institutional racism exists. I mean, it's just amazing to me. The next question. Transgender athletes should be able to play on sports teams that match their current gender identity versus transgender athletes should only be allowed to play on sports teams that match their birth gender. Strong progressive, the liberal lunacy left, overwhelmingly endorsed that. They said by 66 to 19%, forget Title IX. If you identify like that swimmer does, the Leah Thomas does, as you're a man, but man, I'm a girl, I can swim. They think that's right. But Hispanic voters, 64% disagree and say you should only be participating in the sports that identify with your biological birth gender. Working class, about identical. 63% say if you're a dude,
You're a dude.
you're a dude playing the dude sports. When they ask about immigration, this is a shocking number too. The question was, the government should deal with illegal immigration by making it easier to immigrate to the U.S. legally versus the government should deal with illegal immigration by increasing border security and enforcement. The lunatic left, strong progressives, 97% to 2, said we should have open borders. Hispanics, one would think that if the Democrats are aligned with Hispanics, they're split down the middle. 47% favoring increased border security, 47% seeing a more open border. Working class, they want border enforcement at a rate of 58% to 32%. These are their kitchen table issues with the voting bloc that they believe is their voting bloc. So let's go just a couple more here. The question was, we need to reallocate funding from police departments to social services versus we need to fully fund the budget for police departments. Lunatic left, strong progressives, reallocate, defund the police, 87% to 12%. Hispanic voters want full funding of the police by over 50%. Working class is even stronger. They want full funding and protection from the police at 59%. These are their classes that they depend on to make victories. And what you're seeing is they're losing Hispanics and working class people in droves. I mean, that's amazing.
Finding out those people have a lot of common sense. After all.
Exactly. And they are so out there on the left, they can't bring it back in. There's no way to bring it back in because the lunatic left is taking over.
Some Hispanics, they come from lawless countries. They come from cartel-controlled governments. When they come here, they want to feel safe. You've got, this defund the police, how's that worked out for us?
Yes.
Not real well.
Yeah, and so the final question that we were asked was, hard work and determination are no guarantee of success for most people versus most people who want to get ahead can make it if they're willing to work hard. They had to pick which statement they supported. Lunatic left, strong progressives, they don't believe in upward mobility to begin with, right? So they believe that the first statement, that hard work and determination does not guarantee success for most people by 88%. Hispanic voters, on the other side, embrace the view that hardworking people are likely to get ahead by 56%. Working class voters by about the same, 55%. So the conclusion, actually, there was an article written, and I want to give by Roy Teixeira, and I hope I'm not butchering them. You can go read this online. The title is Working Class and Hispanic Voters Are Losing Interest in the Party of Abortion, Gun Control, and the January 6th hearings. He closed by saying that strong progressive, I call them the lunatic left, clearly live in different worlds than Hispanic and working class voters. In a strong progressive, lunatic left, white elite, college-educated world, I'm adding those in, views on abortion, gun control, and January 6th, quote-unquote insurrectionists fit neatly into an overarching set of socio-cultural beliefs that are highly salient to them and increasingly drive the Democrat Party's priorities and their rhetoric. Hispanic and working class voters lack this overarching set of beliefs. In fact, as you see from these numbers, they don't even share any of them, really. And they're more concerned with the basics of their material lives, as we are, kitchen table issues, high rate of inflation, high rate of gas, getting ahead, education, safety. And so it seems he concludes that those working class individuals, the blue collar individuals of the United States and the Hispanic culture and community here in America are leaving the Democrat Party in droves, and I cannot agree with him more.
And we're seeing that the process is way slower than I'd like for it to be, but we're starting to see people across the board, when reality sets in and when people start realizing and seeing that some of these crazy things that we know are way outside the lines and out of the box and crazy. But when those kind of policies and that mindset actually hits the road in normal everyday life for everybody, people start realizing, wow.
Yeah, what did Mike Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
He also
They're getting
said
punched in the mouth right now.
He also said in social media, if there wasn't, back before social media, you get punched in your nose if you said stuff that people get away with on Twitter. The funny thing to me as a politician is that our views really haven't changed. We've had, of course, during the Tea Party, taxed enough already, T, that's what it stood for, that we didn't want the government taking our money and wasting it. But our principles in the Republican Party have never changed. Hardworking, you listen to those questions in the poll. Hardworking values, people share. A lot of people who are immigrating to this United States, why aren't they going to Canada? Why aren't they staying where they are? Why aren't they going to Europe or Africa? You know why? Because this is the greatest country on planet Earth. This is where everybody wants to go to have that opportunity. Some come here because they think, okay, I'm going to get free stuff. Because that's what the liberals who want them to come in and open borders want them to think, so that they can buy their vote. But what they don't understand, what they really don't understand, is that those people that are coming across that want to make a better life for themselves, those that do it legally even, are conservative because they believe in God. There's a lot of the Catholic and Christian faiths coming across our borders. Their morals and their values are important. They believe in life. But what they're trying to do is make their life better. And they have seen government oppression. They have seen socialism more than these college elites, these liberal, small college elites that want to look down upon their perch on high and belittle us. And they know it doesn't work. They know it's crap. That's what they're getting away from. They don't want to come to a new set of Marxism and socialistic means, because then it's only the elite that have, and the rest are the have-nots and work for the haves. So what you're seeing is in that immigration picture, I think, a miscalculation on the Democrats' part, that they think they can flood the zone with voters who are just grateful that they opened the gates at our borders and let them in. But no, they come with their own belief system.
Greatest country on earth doesn't mean perfect. There's always room for improvement. And I think with these values, I agree with Hermie, we all share a lot of the same viewpoints and perspectives. And with these values, this will always go to better our country. We've come so far, and we still got a long ways to go, but we can't get so far left that we turn off of that path and not continue leaning right.
Amen. Nice job.
Hey, I think the LR, I thought it stood for leaning right. I think it's standing for Little Rush. Little Rush Limbaugh over there. Look at you.
Hey. I loved Rush Limbaugh. I love anyone who speaks the truth, man. It's just you. I think what we're seeing, and we've been saying it here on the podcast, is I see a revolution of thinking. I see where, when called upon to change what we have, perhaps we stop taking it for granted and we now realize what we got. And that it may be, just like you said, Shep, not perfect, but it's the best damn thing out there.
No question.
Winston Churchill said, the American Democrat system, capitalism, and judicial system are the worst systems of government on the planet until you compare it to every other system on the planet, and then they are the best. Government's never going to be perfect. We're railing against government, but this is a heck of a lot better than the Marxism, socialism of Canada, or they'd be running to Canada. They're running here because they know they may have a free shot, an opportunity at bettering their lives and enjoying liberty and freedom that's denied them in the socialist states that they come from. And that is really important to me. So that's my first left lunacy. And I'm going to start, during the summer. I think I'm going to do this on next week's show. I've got a whole list of this stuff, of the ridiculousness, but I want to touch on one more because it just happened this week. We unfortunately have seen some mass shootings, and we had one in an Indiana shopping mall this week.
Tragic.
Yeah. But a tragedy that could have been worse, averted by a good guy with a gun. But so we've seen those, and part of, I think we've talked about this too, Hermie, is, what I think is the mainstream media that hates guns, that wants to talk about it, are always the ones that pump up these mass shooters. They put them on TV. These young, and you see the ages are younger and younger. They're like teenagers that want that moment of fame, that 15 minutes of fame, that notoriety, that infamy that comes with it. And the mainstream media is the provider. In the same way, Hermie, I would say to you that when Hollywood says you shouldn't be able to own a firearm, Second Amendment those rights should be taken away from you. Those are the bastards that are putting on the movie screen some of the most violent movies on ever with guns.
Video games.
Last video games too. Last night I was watching, the series with Mike Bannon, the Secret Service agent, where
Olympus Has Fallen.
Olympus Has Fallen. And my kids, my son loves that movie. My wife loves that movie. And man, he was crushing it with an AR-15. Crushing it with the gun that Hollywood hates, okay? I mean, so you're not allowed to have a weapon, but we're going to glorify violence in the same way that the mainstream media puts these mass murderers on a pedestal, and then they go, well, then we need gun control because that's their narrative. Would you agree, Hermie? I mean, that's their narrative. The way they do it is they take this murder and say, see how bad this is? Now I want you, the good guy, to take away your gun.
Yeah, and what's even more frustrating than that, in the aftermath of every shooting, one shooting is too much. It immediately goes back to that person's social media, what they could have caught, should have caught. And now, Bill, there's been an ongoing more discussion about the correlation between these sick, perverted killers and maybe prescription drug use and antidepressants and all these things that they're taking. But nobody wants to talk really about
the real problem.
How do we intervene? Because how many times did they come back 2 weeks later and say, look at these posts on social media last week, 2 weeks before, FBI was aware of him. He went to the doctor. They did this, they did that, and nothing.
Yeah, Ray Charles could see what was going to happen.
And then, they, this talk about, antidepressants, and they talk about, drugs. But then when you talk about, what about our southern border and drugs coming across and this, and that, and the other, it's like nobody wants to connect all the dots.
Can't put two and two together.
They want to take whatever incident or whatever tragedy fits their narrative for them to get their point across. And you got all these other things going on hourly, weekly, daily going on that are red flags and problems and things. And it's like, we don't really want to, put our attention on the border and the drugs and the people, the bad people coming across, and the influence that these bad people may have on people that are already here, and recruiting. It's just so many things going on, and it's really, really frustrating when the left just focuses on certain things that in most cases just fit the narrative that they're trying to push. Right. It's really frustrating.
And if you follow their logic, the fork made you fat.
And Senator, you were talking about the guns a minute in Hollywood. Well, I'm going to correlate that to skill games. Oh, I think it correlates. So Hollywood wants to demonize the guns, but at the same time, they glorify them in the movies. Okay? The casinos and the Virginia Democrats want to tell you how bad skill games are until the casinos come in, and then we're going to let the casinos present you the skill games in a backdoor way. It's very, very similar. I know it's two different topics, right, but it's kind of it's similar to what's going to happen, or what we're predicting could happen if the skill game ban is allowed to stand.
I've stood on the Senate floor and said hypocrisy has a name, and usually it's showing the hypocrisy of Democrats' position. It was in skill games. Governor can't legislate in the budget, but by the way, we legislated in the budget, banning skill games. And to your analogy, it really is the casinos say these games of skills are bad because they're in small business. But come into our big casino in a game of chance it's rigged against you where the house always wins. That's better. Right. I mean, it really is the big guys calling the shots and saying what's right, what's not right. We can have movies that have so much violence and killing. I mean, I was trying to count how many people got killed and the Olympus Has Fallen, I couldn't keep up with it. I mean, they were just going out everywhere, and every kind of ammunition, every kind of gun, firearm was used. But that's okay. And then they come out and say, no guns for those people that are good people to have them. And Hermie makes the perfect point, getting back to that there are so many underlying problems that we are not addressing as a society that cause these people to want to kill and want to become, famous
and that
for doing something
leads
so
up
horrible.
to the gun.
Exactly.
We ain't gotten to the gun yet.
Exactly. And look, we've tried it their way. This shooter in Indiana that shot up that mall last Sunday, went through background check. They go through background checks. They pass background checks. But yet, as to Hermie's point, if social media, if I write something about coronavirus and Trump, I get banned for a week, and they're on me in 5 minutes. But this guy is writing stuff on social media, and they don't pick that up. I mean, don't they have a filter that picks that up that they could then go to the authorities and say, hey, we've got some threats and trouble going on. But I swear, if you write something positive for Trump and against Joe Biden, you're banned. You're in Facebook jail for a month.
Well, Senator, that's called freedom of speech for the Democrats.
Well, yeah, it's their version of it. I guess I'll give you that. But so what we had in Indiana was this young man, again, a young man, waited in the bathroom for an hour, came out shooting, and thank God there was a good Samaritan with a gun, a young man, Elijah, and I can't remember his name, Dixon, or Brad, get me that name because I want to give him a shout out, who calmly, in a crowd, was moving the crowd to the exits, approaching the gunman, and at a very, from what the police said, at a long range, was able to take him out.
Wow.
That we did not have the carnage that we've seen in other places, and he was able to skillfully do that. Now, the police called him a good Samaritan. And so you and I would say that's a good Samaritan. That's fate intervening. That's a guy who knows how to responsibly own and utilize a firearm to neutralize a dangerous subject who is only bent on killing people. You would think everybody would rejoice in that.
So I wonder how the Democrats describe him.
Funny you should ask, Shep, because I've got it right here. So we have one, the traffic anchor of CBS 4 put on Twitter, the term Good Samaritan came from a Bible passage of a man from Samaria who stopped on the side of the road to help a man who was injured and being ignored. I cannot believe we live in a world where the term can equally apply to someone killing someone. My God. Well, at least he understands the Bible a little bit, but I think he gets it wrong. And then, believe it or not, here is somebody, Shannon Watts, the Moms Demand Action Gun Control fundraiser, and it was Elisha Dickin. Thank you, Brad. Elisha Dickin, who's that American hero. So they said this Moms Demand Action founder, Shannon Watts, said on Twitter, I don't know who needs to hear this, but when a 22-year-old illegally brings a loaded gun into a mall and kills a mass shooter armed with an AR-15 after he already killed 3 people and wounded others, is not a ringing endorsement of our implementation of the Second Amendment. What? Huh? It is absolutely a ringing endorsement in my mind, Shep and Hermie, and correct me if I'm wrong, an absolute ringing endorsement of the Second Amendment. And here this person is saying, they brought the gun in illegally. Oh, you know why? Because you made a mall a gun-free zone. And that really stops the shooters because they walk in, they see the sticker on the door, and so they get ready, and they go, oh, gun-free zone. I can't bring my guns in here and shoot up all these people. I can only go where guns are allowed. Because they always choose the soft target. They always choose the soft target. And so that is why Elisha Dickin is my hero of the week. And this dumbass, Shannon Watts of Moms Demand Action, can shove it. Because how many people would have died if that 22-year-old had not been carrying, he had a concealed carry permit? What would have happened?
They should give him the key to the city.
Well, quite frankly, I think it ruins their narrative. They're more happy if there's more carnage. That's what that quote, that stupid, dumbass quote sounds like to me.
That is true.
That's my soapbox, Hermie. What do you think?
That's it's all true. It's all true, and it's sad, and it's concerning. We have to put the divide behind us. A lot of these political ideologies, are meant to divide, and we've got to start taking a really good look at the cause and what can we actually do to make meaningful change to prevent some of these things from happening. But heck of a leaning right moment today, Senator, and appreciate you bringing all that up, and Shep, appreciate your input with that. We'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and do some turning left moments coming up next on Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pacematic.
Hopefully I'll be more calm.
Hi, folks. This is Hermie Sadler. Thanks for listening to our all-new podcast, Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I hope you are enjoying the show as much as Senator Stanley and I enjoy bringing it to you. Whether you're a family traveling together or a truck driver hauling freight up and down the highway, I hope you will take the time to visit one of our Sadler Travel Plaza locations in Virginia and North Carolina. Sadler Travel Plaza locations are licensed dealer locations for Pilot Travel Centers. And we also carry Shell Motiva petroleum products for our four-wheel friends. We pride ourselves on providing one-stop shopping for service, food, and entertainment. Our food options include Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Quiznos, Dairy Queen, Hermie Sadler's Faux Show Bar and Grill, Victory Lane Restaurant, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and much, much more. Our locations include Sadler Travel Plaza in South Hill, located off I-85 at Exit 12. The Sadler Travel Plaza of Emporia, which is conveniently located on Exit 11B off I-95, and Sadler Travel Plaza on Highway 58 in Suffolk. We also have our North Carolina location, Sadler Travel Plaza in Dunn, North Carolina. That's Exit 75 off I-95. We appreciate all of our customers. And Bill and I appreciate you listening to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pacematic.
Hey, this is Bill Stanley, Hermie Sadler's sidekick on this podcast. When I'm not in Richmond at the Capitol or doing this podcast, my real job for the past 27 years is as a trial attorney with the Stanley Law Group. Here at the Stanley Law Group, we represent our clients in every courthouse in the Commonwealth. No problem is too small for us to solve. No case is too big for us to win. Whether it's criminal charges, traffic offenses, civil disputes, litigation matters of any sort, we handle it all. We make sure that we treat every client like family because they are to us. Your problem is our problem. Your success is our success because we hate to lose more than we love to win. And believe me, we win a lot. Don't believe me? Go ask Hermie. I'm his favorite lawyer, and he hates lawyers. So give us a call at 540-721-6028 and let us help you. Or visit our website at www.vastanleylawgroup.com. That's www.vastanleylawgroup.com. At the Stanley Law Group, we'll make sure we're the lawyers that you swear by and not at.
And welcome back. Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. Time to turn left. Then our special guest senator, the incomparable Tyler Hansbrough, will join us after this segment. I do need to get one more sponsor mention in for my Turning Left sponsor.
Of course you do.
Are you okay with that?
Sure. I'm not.
I tell you what, would you want to read it one time?
No. I'm good.
Don't you think it would be a good idea, though, if you read it one time so our sponsor people know that we're equal and that we both are behind and support this sponsor being a part of the show and
on top of.
Sometimes on top, yeah.
Well, I guess I can say that, you went and visited my sponsor yesterday.
Yeah.
I visit your sponsor every night, every afternoon on the weekends.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that I guess this is an off-the-record conversation, but
it's being recorded. I don't think you can say off the record.
You so much as dumped me for my wife last week after a meeting you attended with us, and so she's now your client, and I'm just a jackass.
Well, when Angie wants, Angie gets, and after I looked at some documents, I was with the wrong dude. Well, the one that had all the gold in the bag was her, and listen, being a lawyer is being right, and sometimes being right in court, and sometimes being right with who you represent.
He literally was sitting beside me in this estate meeting we were having, and after he saw prenuptials and other documents people were signing, he literally slid his chair, got on the other side of Angie, and it became her her counsel right in the middle of the meeting.
And I objected on her behalf. Yes, that's true.
So you objected the thing that you just said.
Yes.
On his behalf.
That's right. If that makes sense, yes.
Well, what I'm thinking, Hermie, is if he'll read that text, then he will know how hard you had to stay on top.
Do you need the copy, or do you? Can you
And
you got off the top of your
behind
head?
this one sponsor,
I'm good.
to get her to come on board.
Pace-O-Matic is games that people play. Remember when Hermie wouldn't let us in?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He was making us in when he didn't want to. I guess I need to have that script. But Vista Installations is a great company run by a great lady. What can I say?
I think you should read.
Do they have a website? Do you know?
Now, see, they're kind of internal, so
Okay.
they don't really advertise because what they do is
Oh, yes, they do.
I mean,
Oh, yes, they do.
Brad has a number.
Okay. Well, she's also the manager of my law office, so she comes in and oversees the staff, especially when I'm not here. So
Is she here today?
she's at her office down the street. Thank you. About a mile away.
The
2
real
miles.
nice one.
And actually, it's 10 miles away. Now it's going to 15 miles away.
All right, look, Turning Left is sponsored by Vista Installations, Laura Stanley, and just a reminder, she has been running a successful window and door installation company and babysitting politicians for over 12 years.
Mother puss bucket.
What do you want to talk about, Turning Left?
Oh, I thought we were done.
What a great sponsor.
Well, so I've had, this past week was kind of an exciting week for racing. One of the things, of course, I did New Hampshire. My son and I always race on PS4 and PS5, the NASCAR, whatever they're racing, we race. And once again, my son managed. I led New Hampshire. It's a very interesting flat track to go around, even on
Very easy to overdrive. Yeah.
And I overdrove it through 3 and 4, and he went to the inside, caught me when I was trying to block, and put me right into where the entrance to the pit road is.
yeah.
And I mean, I couldn't even get my car turned around.
Like a can opener.
I went from first to 40th.
Yeah.
and of course he won the race as always. So if you ever want your ego to take a bruising, let the 11-year-old get behind the wheel and show it to you. But that was an interesting race. I thought it was a pretty good race. Xfinity always, to me, just seems to be more exciting. But it was an interesting race for personality-wise. I mean, you had Austin Dillon going into Brad Keselowski for
Well, I'll say this. Back up to Saturday first.
Yeah.
Justin Allgaier won the Xfinity race, and I'll just say, Justin I consider him to be one of the old guard, kind of like my brother was when he spent so many years in the Xfinity series, and of course driving for Junior Motorsport. So it's always good to see Allgaier win. So congratulations to him. And Christopher Bell, you're talking about Keselowski and Dillon, but Christopher Bell won that race and is really making the playoff picture pretty. People like Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, drivers like that are really. It's going to come down to the wire on whether or not they qualify for the playoffs. After it looked like Truex was going to walk away with it, his dominant car. He takes 2 tires on a pit stop. I don't know why. It's easy to second guess watching TV, but I did see the episode with Austin Dillon and Brad Keselowski, and don't really understand all that. I mean, you're back there running 20th. Yeah. Why tear your car all to pieces?
Well, and it didn't look like they had any interaction beforehand that would have required that. But then it seemed to me that once Austin Dillon, maybe Brad Keselowski hates his new reality show, but Austin moves into him just a little bit. And I mean, Keselowski went wilding on him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Brad's got to be
going to drive him into the grass.
Think about how frustrating you have to be in Brad Keselowski's situation to leave a job, say at a Penske, and go into business with Jack Roush, and the whole company is on the shoulders of Brad Keselowski from not only a competition standpoint, but hiring people and doing other things, trying to get that program turned around. But Brad Keselowski was able to rebound and get a top 10 finish, so we'll see if they're able to continue that.
So you think that pressure, though, is just really kind of mounting on him a little bit more? Or?
I can't explain to people how much pressure it is on a totally different scenario. Like back in some of my days, back when Michael Waltrip first started his Toyota racing team, he had sponsorship from Aaron's furniture rental outfit.
That's where the Lucky Dog came from.
Yeah. And so Michael, he got caught at Daytona with jet fuel in his car, but he brand new team, brand new sponsor, Toyota's first time in the sport. And Michael goes down for testing in January and goes back for speed weeks in February, and the cars were so slow. And he's got all these sponsors and all these people at Daytona, so he ends up still being slow, but he ends up getting caught having like some form of a jet fuel, at his car. And there's not a good way to start off your career as an owner in that way with a new sponsor and all that. But I say all that only to say that Michael came to me. I had a relationship at that time with Doug Yates and Robert Yates because my brother drove for them, and I had bought a car to go to Daytona with, to race in the Daytona 500. And coming out of Daytona, Michael made a deal with me because I was running my own team and didn't have a full-time sponsor at the time, and basically said, Hermie, I want to put errands on your car. And whether or not I make the show, if you make the show, you'll get sponsor money. So, and back in those days, I'm not sure how close you were paying attention back in those days, Bill, but
I was paying attention.
I go to you go to Atlanta, like a place like Atlanta, and it would be 60 cars trying to make 43 spots.
43 spots, yeah.
So it would be 17 to 20 cars going home just about every week.
Didn't have the charter system that they do now.
So, but I was still spending, the money. So I remember being like at Atlanta. I remember a similar thing at New Hampshire, Charlotte, where I'm getting ready to go out for qualifying. And if I make the show, not only do I get the purse money for the race, but I get maybe a $50,000 or $75,000 check from Michael Waltrip Racing. Because what Michael was trying to do, he knew he was going to have a tough road to get a team going from scratch. And he didn't want to have it where if he didn't make the show, there wasn't an Aaron's car in the race. So I was kind of his insurance policy to put a car in the show. But I mean, just imagine, like in my case, going to the Daytona 500 and spending probably $200,000 to go, everything all in to go. And if I make the show, I get a $200,000 purse payment back to cover all my expenses, and maybe for Daytona, a $150,000 check from Michael Waltrip Racing. Or if I miss the show, I spend all that money and get nothing. So you can imagine what it's like sometimes to pull back in on pit road after a bad qualifying run, and you've got team members, crew chiefs, families, sponsors looking at you like, what happened? One of those. And so I can certainly understand, not only from a financial standpoint, but a personal standpoint, and they all have egos and they're all competitive. And, it has been an ongoing question all year. When is Brad Keselowski's team going to step up and go? So I get why there's some frustration.
So wait,
there.
How'd that story end with you and Michael Waltrip?
What do you mean?
Did you make the show?
Yeah, I did it all year. I didn't make every race, no, but I made Daytona. And I got, that was, my point is.
And so would there be, because I don't remember, were there two Aaron's cars out there because you made the show and he made the show, or he wasn't on the show? Really?
At times, but he didn't make Daytona that year. So there was times when, he struggled to get going, and I put cars in the race for him. And I went to Talladega one time and made the show. Michael made the show. And Bobby Hamilton Jr. at the time was driving for a guy named Kyle Wells in the Tide, number 32. They missed the show. So Michael already had his car in the show, so I ended up selling my spot to Kyle Wells to put Tide and Bobby Hamilton Jr. in my car.
And everybody now makes the show. I mean, you don't have that kind of, bunch of guys coming with their own equipment and then going home losers.
Because of charters,
yeah. And they also have changed the way that you qualify in the Group A, Group B stuff. But
Well,
but see, I thought that was kind of more fun because you saw more of the homegrown guys going out there and trying to make NASCAR.
Trying to make it.
I mean, just like it started that way.
Well, Waltrip took a big gamble doing that, because if he's not making the show and you are, Aaron's could have very easily said, well, why are we sponsoring Waltrip? Why don't we just sponsor
Aaron's, to their credit, back in those days,
they stayed
really
loyal to him.
They were really loyal. They had a great relationship with Michael and Darrell Waltrip and Toyota. They weren't going anywhere. But
his ads were funny too.
Yeah, they're the kind of sponsor you want.
Sure.
You have a up day, down day. You want somebody, whether it be a friendship or whether it be a business partner or whether it be a sponsor. You want somebody that is there for the long haul.
Kind of like Vista Installations.
Shep, I really like having you around. But
it sounds like they're here for the long
when we're off air. He's sitting there telling my employee, Brad Tuesday over here, our employee, our executive producer, he's asking him whether he's getting mileage going from his house that he bought 25 minutes away to come here to the office every day. In front of me. And then he says something like that. I mean, I'm thinking he's trying to get fired. And I love having you, Sheppy.
But be careful, he's saying. Be careful.
You watch your
It's
ass.
thin ice.
You watch your ass.
What'd you think about the news of Tyler Reddick leaving Richard Childress Racing, joining 2311 Racing with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, and the fashion in which they did it?
Well, and that's a lot to talk about. But number one, what the hell is Richard Childress Racing thinking? You know, they announced that, okay, we're extending him a year. They didn't lock him up into a long-term deal. And what, the next day or the day after, he announces he's got a long-term contract with 2311? I mean, somebody dropped the ball. That's a fumble and a stumble over there at RCR. And you would think they've been around for so long, but they have not been winning races. I mean, what, they've won since Harvick left 4, 5, maybe 6, 7.
He's scattered out, not near enough.
I mean, and he drives Chevys, and Chevys have won races, and yet he's not winning races. He used to be the top dog out there. He and Rick Hendrick were the leaders in the sport. And you've got probably the up-and-coming premier guy in Tyler Reddick, and you let him go?
Yeah.
I mean, now I remember, and maybe I'm wrong, but Tyler Reddick used to race for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity, did he not? And then he announced he was leaving to go to Childress.
Yeah, he ran for Junior. He won an Xfinity championship for Junior Motorsports.
As a lame duck, wasn't it?
Then he went and won a Xfinity championship at RCR. Next year, he won 2 in a row.
And
Wow.
See, what I remember is he announced that he was leaving Junior Motorsports to go to Childress and still won a championship. So maybe that's what, Childress is hoping
Richard
for.
Childress Racing is they're in some trouble.
Yeah.
From a competitive standpoint.
So okay. And we got to talk about the Denny part too, because I think that's pretty amazing. But, Richard Childress, people would line up to race for him. I mean, Dale Earnhardt. I've not been impressed with Austin Dillon. I mean, he's riding in the 3. Some race fans think that's blasphemy that he took the 3 car to begin with. He had some early success, but he hasn't been having great success since then.
Yeah.
He's the grandson of Richard Childress.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a
good
little
guy.
nepotism.
Good guy.
Yeah. No. I like his. My wife and I watch
Here's the difference.
watch his reality show on USA.
Here's the difference. Do you want to know the difference?
Yes.
The difference is a company, Richard Childress is getting on a little up in age, and I don't know who's next in line to run that company or operational race team or whatever the case
Austin
may be.
Ty's dad,
All right.
his son,
So
or father or son-in-law.
here's the difference. Richard Childress would not be as willing to commit to a long-term deal with Tyler Reddick until they locked in a sponsor first. Denny Hamlin, and more so Michael Jordan, in his money, same way Gene Haas did with some of the things that they've done with Tony Stewart's racing outfit with Kurt Busch, and they get the driver they want, make the deal first, sign the driver up, and then worry about
Then the sponsor will come.
take a chance on a sponsor coming later. So that's the reason why Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan are more inclined to make a deal to bring over a Tyler Reddick, not even knowing what car. Is it a third car, a different car?
I don't want to talk to you about too, but I mean, doesn't Richard Childress have the same confidence that he's going to be able to bring a top-tier sponsor to a guy that's really just showing, I think, the beginning
Apparently not.
of his career? I think
Apparently
this guy
not.
is going to be a hot racer for a long time.
Plus, Richard may not be as excited at his age and at his place to put $10 million out of pocket, or to commit $10 to $15 million out of pocket
to get it going.
to cement that.
Okay, so you're a race car owner now, with a great partner. But so speculate with me a little bit here. Where do they go? I mean, so one, they've got Tyler Reddick in the car for the next year as a lame duck.
Let me ask you this: you and I on a race team together, as you just said.
Yes.
Okay. What if we didn't have Pace-O-Matic? What if we decided we wanted to put together a open wheel modified team, build 3 new cars, build engines, make a deal with Phil Stefanelli, get a shop? This year we're going to spend close to $1 million. So how quickly would you have jumped if I had said, Bill, we're going to do A, B, C, D, and E, and we might get a sponsor before the end of the year, but you're going to have to write a check for $500,000 and put it in the bank so we can operate this race team. You have to decide, okay, how bad do I really want to race?
Well, I after going to your estate planning meeting, I know exactly who to go to and get that sponsorship money. And her name is Angie.
You understand that the difference? What I'm saying is, Richard
he's at a different point in his life,
and Denny and Michael are here, and they're like, if we put together the team,
So Childress is up here, Denny and Michael are down here.
age-wise and willingness to invest in the future-wise. That's just my opinion.
Like the future owners of the sport,
Sure,
where Richard
that's
is
my
more
opinion.
your 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s owner.
Why would Richard maybe want to put in or commit 15, if it's a multi-year deal, $30 million for Tyler Reddick, without knowing what the sponsor is going to be or if you're going to have one?
Well, number one, I think legacy is important. Getting back on a winning track, especially, they haven't won that many races over time since Harvick left. You've got opportunity maybe to bring in a partner, not just a sponsor. Maybe somebody wants to buy into your team.
A lot of maybes.
Could the value go down?
Might be, could be, maybe.
Okay.
Look, but my point I'm getting at.
But it's
just my
Richard
opinion.
Childress, like Childress Winery. I mean, that's a brand. He's branded his name to the point where, quite frankly, I think he can sell his team or his car dealerships or anything else that he has because of the Childress name. And I think the buyer would keep the Childress name on it because of its value intrinsically. Just as if you were going to buy the Wood Brothers team, I'd leave the Wood Brothers name on it.
A lot of mights and coulds. But my point is, Richard's at the point in his life where he, maybe if he's 40 and he sees Tyler Reddick out there, and he may understand that they need to lock him down for 4 or 5 years and be responsible for the nut that's going to create for them to do that over that period of time. But I'm saying if he was in a position to do that or wanted to do that, they should have done it when they, instead of dipping their toe for one more year, they should have sold up the whole bucket. But then he would be on the line for, or whoever he may have sold to or wanted to do later would have been indebted for that.
And look, and maybe two things. Maybe Reddick didn't want to go long term.
Oh, I bet he did.
Maybe he
I bet
didn't.
He would have stayed with him.
And maybe
He's gone from Chevy to Toyota.
yeah, maybe he
But
didn't
if you're
want
Tyler
long
Reddick
term.
and you're 25 years old,
Why do I want to be
what
long
entices
term?
you more, driving for Richard Childress or Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin? I mean,
Richard Childress. Oh, well, that's me speaking. No, I get
And
that
maybe
part.
Jordan's got a sponsor that they just hadn't released yet.
Well, but so what does it do for RCR when you're talking about, okay, he's a lame duck, and I mean, just like in politics, you've got 1 year left and that's it. Does that hurt the sponsors that RCR is going to have going into next year with Tyler on the books, because they're not going to want to commit to anything more than 1 year? And then the real question for you, race car owner, is now Childress is in a position where he had the up-and-coming, in my opinion, the up-and-coming race car driver for a generation, and probably that could bring the generation that he lives in and his age back to racing, just defect to 2311 with Denny and Michael Jordan. What's he going to do now? Who's he put in that car? I mean, does he go find another up-and-coming guy, or does he find some guy that's got some retail to him that a sponsor's going to want?
What is it?
Tell me.
It's the free market.
Oh, no.
It's the free market system.
And he can do whatever he wants to do.
Isn't that a dirty word anymore, free market?
I love it.
So speculate a little bit. You're Richard Childress. You've got all the fame, all the fortune, all the good business success. Tyler's just left you. Who are you going to put in that seat?
I have no idea. I mean,
Speculate. I mean, is he going to go with a Zane Smith or I don't know. Try to poach somebody from another team? Because isn't it now the sponsors follow the drivers a lot? Does that make it tougher? I mean, I don't know.
Well, you've already said it 3 or 4 times. I mean, Richard Childress is not the premier organization in NASCAR as they were when Dale Earnhardt was driving.
Yeah, but the branding is so strong still. So strong.
You may think so, but if you're not the sponsor writing the check, who are you writing the check to? What are you buying? What is so strong about it now?
Tyler Reddick.
But he's not
Well,
there.
he's gone.
Yeah, but I'm just saying right now. If
Is Austin Dillon driving the 3 really what drives it?
Mid-pack now.
Okay.
Ty Dillon is losing his ride with Petty, right? 42 car.
So
he's not got one there.
Really,
You
what
put
is
Ty
it? Really,
Dillon
what
in
is he selling? Who knows?
Put the Dillon brothers together? I don't know.
Do you think you're gonna win races with them two together?
Probably not.
So what's the goal?
Maybe it's to sell T-shirts.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it's a fumble. I think it's a really bad fumble.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
I'm letting you know why I think
why would
Richard
they-
fumbled and why I think Denny and Michael were able to put it together, because they are forward thinking enough to know I want this driver to be on our team. We'll get the details straight later. And Richard's like, if it even got to him, would be like, am I willing to commit $30 or $40 million or more to put into Tyler Reddick right now, and really not knowing what the next 5 years is going to look like for Richard Childress Racing?
That's a great question, and I'm just kind of stunned by the whole thing because you root for RCR if not for any other reason than the Good Wrench 3.
Sure.
And for
if you're old school, I mean, you want Richard Childress Racing to be a part of the picture. I mean, I was happy when they won a couple weeks ago, but that puts more pressure back on Austin Dillon. So we'll see if he can step up and make it happen. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I was simply saying to you, Michael and Denny are much more aggressive at this point of their ownership venture and maybe have more discretionary funds or investors or whatever the case may be to be able to make a call like that. And as I said, I'm not saying it the right way, but worry about the sponsor, worry about the details later.
Cart before the horse a little bit there. But, and if you think about it, and along to your point, and now that I'm thinking about it, you make a lot of sense, which I hate to admit anytime. But Cow League Racing, Trackhouse Racing, 2311, you add Keselowski to the back end.
It's a whole new generation.
Fenway, and you've got the new generation of owner, and Childress represents the old. And
these people today, people today, whether it be drivers, sponsors, they're not going to sponsor Richard Childress anymore because Dale Earnhardt was a champion 25 years ago. You have to have performance and results today in today's world, today's market. And unfortunately, they did win a couple weeks ago, but consistently speaking, they're not one of the top 5 organizations on the track.
And I'd still be willing to bet Jordan. I'd be willing to bet they have a sponsor. They just hadn't released it yet.
So
I'd be willing to bet that they've had a sponsor in their back pocket for 12 months, just waiting for the right driver.
Okay, last question then when it comes to that. Now you've got the dilemma over 2311. You've got Kurt Busch, and you've also got Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace finished, second, third in New Hampshire? Mm-hmm. Third, I think it was. You've got Kurt Busch, who's won, I think, twice with him. Mm-hmm. Both have won with him. In the charter system, it's not like you can just put a car out there and try to qualify again without a charter. It seems like it's charter-driven.
I think they'll find a charter.
So you think they'll buy a third charter and they'll field 3 cars?
I do.
You don't think either Kurt Busch or Bubba Wallace is out? Because Bubba Wallace's performance until New Hampshire was pretty piss poor.
Yeah. If I had to pick, though, based on age, if one of those two had to go, it'd probably be Kurt.
I hate to see that, but he's been 7 teams.
My guess is they'll, and they may have, to Shep's point, they may have already have all this, a conversation worked out with Aspire or one of the other, shorter, less funded teams buy a charter. But the refreshing thing to me is Denny and Michael, they're not worried about that right now. What they've got right now is
confidence.
Tyler Reddick.
That's right.
In the hopper.
They got the golden.
They've got a problem of finding out what seat to put Tyler Reddick in.
Yeah.
So I think they'll figure that out.
That's a great problem to have, as they say now. Now, we have one more thing I think we need to bring up. That you're returning to the track, aren't you?
To the broadcast booth. Just briefly.
Well, sort of, yeah. But you want to make an announcement on that?
Well, we can.
Well, it's kind of turning left, isn't it?
I don't know what.
I think it's a big deal, but because this is where, at least for a lot of people who listen, a lot of people who know you and the personality that you have, the fame that you've gotten, has been on the inside of the bull ring.
Yep.
In the pits.
Well, I have been approached several times over the last couple of years about doing different things on television, different kind of races, even going back doing some NASCAR stuff and that kind of thing. And I really haven't to this point wanted to jump back into that because I do have a lot that I'm responsible for and lots going on, and I have vowed to, if I can, not get on an airplane for a while. But I did get asked a couple weeks ago to come back, and there's a late model stock car race on Saturday night at Langley Speedway as part of the Hampton Heat. Virginia has a big contingent of late models, is like a little 3-race circuit kind of thing they do. But I'm going to be the color commentator on FloRacing TV for the Hampton Heat 200-lap late model stock car race this Saturday night from Langley Speedway.
Wow.
So it's something that I could do. I could drive to Langley. I know a lot of the people involved in the sport. that run late models, do all that, and I can drive down and do the race and drive back home that night. So if you're a late model stock car fan or want to catch me on the broadcast, it'll be on Flow TV.
FloRacing.com, I believe, is where you can find it. But
Saturday
also,
night.
isn't it in the 17th Senate District, Langley?
No.
Oh,
That's
close
a
by?
little close by.
Close by.
Close by.
Well, anybody who wants to meet a potential candidate for the state Senate seat in Virginia, the 17th, you can either watch him on Flow Racing as he returns to the booth, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
Returns to the track, sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
And you can go meet him in person. And that sounds like a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot of friends that race in late model stock cars. Looking forward to going back to Langley. And so those that come out to the racetrack, I'll see you live at the track Saturday night. For those that watch on Flow, I'll see you on TV Saturday night. But it is something I'm looking forward to.
Exciting.
We'll see how I butcher that up and go from there. But I plan to have a good time.
I think you're a natural. So it'll be easy. It'll be like trying on shoes that you wore a long time ago that still fit. They still smell the same, too.
All right. We're going to take another short break and bring up our guest. Very much look forward to our conversation coming up. Our guest is the all-time leading scorer in the history of the ACC, Tyler Hansbrough, a great Tar Heel, and he's next.
If someone relies on you financially, your spouse, your child, anyone, life insurance gives you the peace of mind that they'll have a financial cushion if something ever happens to you. By making it easy to compare your options from top companies, Goliath Life helps make sure you're not paying a penny more than you have to for the life insurance coverage you need to protect those you love. At GoliathLife.com, you can compare personalized quotes from top companies to find your lowest price. The process is fast and easy with no hidden fees, upsells, or hassles. Goliath Life is your one-stop shop to find the life insurance you need at the right price. Head to GoliathLife.com to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's GoliathLife.com.
Are you feeling stuck making minimum payments on your credit card debt? SaveWithConrad.com can help, and you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Oh, and did I mention no house payments for 2 months? Get rid of your credit card debt and lower your monthly payments right now at SaveWithConrad.com.
And we're back. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, still leaning right.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, and I am turning left. This is Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace, Omatic, and Senator. This is you and I have gone back and forth, and I've had some of my friends and guests on. Last week we had none other than the Road Dogg, Jesse James, the WWE Hall of Famer. Next week we're going to have Mickie James, WWE great. She'll be on the show. But today we wanted
Does that mean in the James theory we're going to have LeBron James on here in about a month? Because every James you know has been on the show.
Mickey's closer to LeBron than Brian is. But they're both.
I would agree with that.
They're both great. But we wanted to break things up today. You've heard me say many times. In fact, you gave me grief earlier this year when we were at the Smart Open Wheel Modified Tour race at Southern National. I was watching the North Carolina Tar Heels play Baylor in the NCAA tournament, and you were like, why do you keep watching? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You just didn't get it, I guess you could say.
Well, no, I understand it now, but you made me pull out the big screen outdoor TV.
I had to watch it. I had to watch it.
Ran down my battery for you.
I had to watch it.
You and Eliott were like, oh my God, you thought you were watching a damn, a real street fight out there. You guys were screaming like
we're diehard Tar Heels, and there's nobody that we enjoyed playing for 4 years in Chapel Hill than our next guest and my friend Tyler Hansbrough. What a career, what a guy, what a friendship that we've created over the years. And he's in the podcast business as well. We're going to get him a chance to talk about that. But Tyler, thank you for stepping out on a limb and joining this podcast, having no idea what the hell we're even all about. Welcome.
No, hey, guys, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here. And Senator, that Baylor game was one of the most emotional games as I've ever watched since I left Carolina. I remember that game when Brady fouled out, Baylor started coming back, and I almost ripped that TV off my wall when we got some of those calls late down the stretch. But that was a crazy game. But no, thanks for having me on the podcast. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I thought Eliott Sadler was going to take my TV out of my motor coach and throw it across the field.
When it went to overtime, I left and came inside for the start of the race. I just knew that we had gotten beat. So, Tyler...
and you didn't. You won.
We won. It was just one of those.
I was trying to get him down for driver intros. I said, hey, man, we're the owners. We got to go, oh, no, I didn't leave.
Yeah.
So he stayed and watched it.
But Tyler, our friendship started, I watched you play the 4 great years you had, and, of course, winning a national championship. Now, the first time we hung out as friends, you had just been drafted by the Pacers, and Eliott and I were in Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400, and I think our first social gathering was a trip out. We went to St. Elmo's Steakhouse to eat, and then I think we went to Blake Shelton concert and George Strait maybe that night. Do you care to narrate that performance that night, or would you like for me to do it?
Well, I'm not sure which part you're talking about, but I will start off. I got a phone call. It was probably my first week in Indianapolis, and I was supposed to be the Grand Marshal at the Brickyard 400, which was a huge deal. And somebody calls me from the program. It was Hoots, and one of Coach's good friends said, hey, Hermie Sadler's in town. He's a big-time Tar Heel. Brothers, they're both NASCAR drivers, but his brother's racing. They want to know if you want to come hang out with them. So, yeah, sure, man, I'll come up with them. And I forgot who they sent to pick me up, but when we got in the car, I felt like I was in the Brickyard 400, the way the guy was driving.
That was Brett. Brett Griffin.
Yeah, Brett. All over the road. And, yeah, so we go out to St. Elmo's, which is probably the nicest steakhouse in Indianapolis. And then we went and hung out with Blake. And I would say this is probably before Blake really blew up, and just kind of kicking it on his bus. And he was opening up for George Strait. And, then we listened to George Strait, Blake Shelton. I mean, I was like, man, who the hell are these guys? And, my brother... my brother and one of my best friends, their best friends, they came in and hang out with us the next day. But no, it was a great time, and me and Hermie been friends ever since. Yeah, so that's kind of like when we first met.
That's kind of a safe narration, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
that we wanted a few more details than that.
No, here's what the fun.
Well, I didn't want to.
The funniest part of the night.
Was this after 8 p.m.? Because this will be our first after 8 p.m. story.
This was after 8 p.m. and it was after midnight. It was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We were back in Indianapolis, and we decided we were going to bar hop a little bit. Go to a couple little clubs up down the street. Tyler's new big man in town, first round draft pick of the Pacers, and this and that and the other. And we go to all these clubs. So maybe the 3rd or 4th club we go to, we walk up, and the line is all the way around the sidewalk, around the building. Of course, Tyler goes up to the front, and we talk to somebody. So they put us in. They put us all the way in the back room back there, and his brother and them are drinking. What is that thing y'all call it when you take tequila or something and drop it into beer and drink it all at one time?
Oh, well, we came up with the most disgusting drink you could think of, where you take a half a beer, and then you take a shot of tequila, and you drop the tequila into the beer, then you slam it. And we used to call it a popper bluff after our hometown, because we didn't think a lot of people would drink them. But you got to throw a few of those in our system, and we're a little different after a few of those.
A little different. So we
misdemeanor different.
Yeah. So we go to this club. They put us all the way in the back, and we're back there. This is 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by now. And Tyler is being very kind, because everybody in the club wants to come up and, they like, oh, Eliott Sadler, okay, whatever, Hermie, oh, yeah, hey, Tyler, da-da. And so these girls are coming up, all these cute little girls, and they're, Tyler, can I take a picture? And, right now, him and his brother Ben are both 7 or 8 popular bluffs into the evening.
Oh.
And so finally, this one little cute blonde walks up, And she's like, Tyler, Tyler, Tyler. By this time, Tyler's had enough of the fanfare. You know, we just want to have some drinks and have fun. This little girl comes up and says, hey, Tyler, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? I work for the Pacers. And Tyler's like, get the hell out of here. Bitch, you don't work for the Pacers. You know, this went like a back and forth thing. So we finally, the sun's coming up and Tyler goes back to his hotel they had him in, and me and Eliott go back to the track. So we get together the next night to go out again, and I see Tyler, and first thing he says when he walks up, he says, Hermie, bitch works for the Pacers. She did work.
She sure did.
Larry Bird. She was Larry Bird's secretary or something, or what was it? Oh my God!
I don't. No, it wasn't to say she worked in the. She was with the Pacers. I can't remember what she technically did, but
Payroll.
It was funny because she was like, "Yeah, I'm with the Pacers," and you know, this is after I've heard so many stories by now. I'm like, "Oh, bullshit! There ain't no way you with the Pacers." Blah blah blah. Yeah. And yeah, no telling what I said following. And you know, I go in the next day and I see her there, and I just start laughing. I was like, boy, oh boy, you got
So y'all
me.
are still friends today, huh? What a great start to your business.
I haven't talked to her in a while, but she did work for the Pacers for sure. Oh man, that was funny.
Look, I want to go around the horn here, but one thing that you and I both have in common, of course, you to a different level than I do, is a relationship and a friendship with, you know, Coach Roy Williams. He retired last year, but I know he's still very special to you, just as best you can. I know you've done it probably 100 times, but tell us a little bit about how it was to be recruited by and play for a guy like Coach Williams at North Carolina.
Yeah, so I was extremely lucky to play for Coach Williams. And, you know, you hear a lot of things when you're getting recruited as a kid in high school. And I think the biggest saying that, you know, it meant a lot to me was honesty. And I think Coach Williams was probably the most honest coach that recruited me. And so he built a connection with my parents. And, you know, I think University of Missouri, which I grew up, a huge Missouri Tigers fan, you know, they were in some trouble. And so it really kind of opened the door up for other universities. And so UNC, and I got to know Coach Williams, Coach Holliday, and we built a great relationship in high school. And so I was like, I'm coming here. And I would say the most important thing Coach Williams taught me, one was he was one of the most honest people I have in my life. He's never lied to me. That's extremely important. But also the way he worked hard every single day. And I think that's very important, especially now in this social media world where a lot of people kind of see these clips and see this instant success. But no, working with Coach Williams for 4 years, you get to see how hard he works every single day. And ultimately on our fourth year, we won a national championship. But if you started our freshman year and see how much work we put in to get to that end of that, the fourth year to win it all, it was great. And just seeing how he worked and approached his daily job, I think can rub off on anybody, and it had a huge impact on me.
Hey, Tyler, this is Shep. The Senator hadn't gotten that panoramic TV yet, so you probably can't see me, but a couple of questions for you. And
You ain't missing nothing, buddy.
you know, Poplar Bluff, you know, not a real large metropolitan area. And of course, with your career and all of your successes, the 2 state championship basketball titles there, I think you were the highest scoring basketball player there in the state, but not coming from a large city. Tell kids about your journey and about some of your success stories and, you know, digging in, having to work a little bit harder, being from a smaller rural area, and how those experiences helped you to get to where you are today.
Yeah, I love where I'm from. I'm from a small town in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, but
I mean,
I think
you named a shot after it.
Yeah. Well, you know, the shot, it represents a tough shot. And that's not everyone can take that shot. And I know it sounds stupid, but Poplar Bluff is we've got a lot of hardworking people back there. And so I've been working hard ever since junior high school. And so the small town community and, the pride that a lot of people have in their community is unmatched at bigger cities. And I've always grown up with, I've always thought that city people were kind of soft, and that's kind of a stereotype for somebody who lives in the country. But I believe that when we were going to play, a school in the city, I thought we'd always beat them because I didn't really think they worked as hard as, small town country town like us. And, we were up every single morning working at 5:30, and I don't think a lot of kids don't do that right now. I don't care, small town, big town, but, there's a lot of pride, and I don't think anybody before me ever went to UNC. And so I took a lot of, that pride from where I'm from and brought it to the big stage at UNC. And so a lot of people from my town kind of felt connected. And, a big part of why it's important to me is because I know there'll be another kid from Poplar Bluff one day that is going to work hard. And you don't need to be from a big city, and you don't need to have all these facilities. You just got to have a great work ethic to get where you want. And I think that's super important.
That's awesome. And look, one question from my son, of course, everybody's the world's largest Tar Heel fan, but Hermie knows my youngest son, Patrick. Hermie has blessed us with game tickets, and we're able to come see you play there a couple of times. And Patrick wants to know, what are your thoughts on this year's Tar Heel team coming up?
I'm real excited. I think they've got a lot of momentum, but I think it's coming off of last year, there's a lot of expectations, and I think it's going to be a different year, and you're going to have to be able to separate the 2 years, because now we've seen what you're capable of, and a lot of people are going to expect to win every game. You can't meet other people's expectations, but I'm excited to see how this team approaches when they're not it's different being the honey when you're actually the hunter. And so I'm excited to see how they approach this mentality of, all right, everybody's coming at us because of what we did last year. And I think also I'm excited to see Armando. I think Armando's one of the best players in the country for sure. And coming off of what he did last year, I'm really excited to see his growth and how he handles teams scouting him, or how, players are going to come out here and, try to guard him and give him their best shot. So I'm looking forward to see how he handles that. But I think we've got a lot of talent. I think these kids are working really hard. So I'm super excited.
Awesome.
Tyler, growing up, we all have someone who makes the biggest impact in our lives, role models, heroes, something that you model your life growing up after, something you aspire to be. Who was that role model or that influential life for you growing up?
Well, for me, I had a lot of impact. I grew up in a town where their junior college coach, Gene Bess, had won more basketball games than any coach, I think at any level, high school, college, whatever. I mean, he coached till he was in his 80s or something, but he had a couple national championship teams, and I used to go to his basketball camps in the summer, and he had some pretty good players come through there. Latrell Sprewell played for Three Rivers Community College, and Gene Bess. So he had an impact on, teaching me basketball, and he was a hard worker, so he had a lot of influence on me. I would also say my high school coach, but the number one person would be my older brother, Greg. He's somebody I'm super close with, and he had a sickness growing up, and so he had a brain tumor. When he had brain surgery, I kind of watched his growth and watched him learn how to redo a lot of things in his life and overcome a lot of obstacles. And so he's been my best friend ever since. So I don't think I have a better role model or a closer friend than my older brother, Greg.
Wow, that's inspirational. Now, when you were playing in college for, who was that again? North Wilkesboro?
Yeah, North Wilkesboro.
University of UNC. Sorry, I'm doing that for Hermie. Not you. You're much bigger than me and probably could whip my ass, but I'm looking at Hermie, so I'm doing it for his reason. Who was your biggest rival, not just team-wise, but maybe personally on the court, and where was the toughest place outside of your home arena to play?
Biggest rival, Clemson, Trevor Booker. When I was playing at UNC, he was a load. He was athletic. He was strong. He could play really good defense. He was always a challenge. So I always knew I had to be ready to play against him, or, I could get dominated. He was tough. But the toughest place to play on the road, it's really difficult between Maryland when they're in the ACC. They had a really tough home arena. And then also I would say Florida State. Florida State's extremely difficult as well. Their fans are packed in there. But, the typical answer, everybody wants me to say Duke, but no, I wouldn't say Duke's harder than any of those two when I was in school.
Especially when you keep winning. So every time you win out there. But so, when you think about those kind of things, in playing sports, what's that one game you remember the most in your 4-year career at North Carolina? Because not a lot of people, especially, starting in your years, played for 4 years. You played all 4 years. What's that game that, when you look back on your college career, you say, man, that was it? Maybe outside the national championship, maybe outside the beating Duke. What was that one game that when you're sitting around in a cocktail party getting ready to slam a poplar bluff you like talking about, or after you've had 4 poplar bluffs you like talking about?
One game that obviously comes to my mind, it would be the Kansas loss. That was probably the most difficult game, but it also motivated our whole team to put the work in over the summer and build from that. And I think it may be a reason why we were able to win a national championship the following year. So that would be one game that, still kind of gets me going to this day, is losing to Kansas in San Antonio at the Final Four. That one was tough. And then if I had to think of one other game, let me see here. I think it was against Maryland at home. It might have been my freshman year or sophomore year. I had a chance to win the game from the top of the key. We didn't have a good game. We came out there and didn't really have a good game, but coach drew up a play for me to shoot the ball at the top of the key, and I missed a shot on the front of the rim, and that one really gets me going still. But those are the two that come to my mind, but Kansas loss would be by far the most difficult.
Well, they always say you learn more, and I tell my associate attorneys you learn more from failure than you ever do from success, and those are the ones that kind of stick with you rather than the ones you win, because when you win, it's kind of a blur. You think you can do it every time, but when you lose, you know every single moment or what happened and what put you there. And so, yeah, I can understand that too.
We want to get to your podcast and some other things, but one more basketball question. I think I know part of the answer to this, but tell our listeners and viewers that are watching this, what is your status today as far as playing? I know you've been battling through some injuries and trying to get back healthy again, but do you feel like your playing days are over, or do you still have a little fuel in the tank and plan on playing professionally, next year or the year after?
I would like to get back on the court. My body, I've been dealing with a knee injury, and I'm trying to get over it, but I see myself getting healthy and being back on the court hopefully next year. But within the next 2 years, I think I have a couple more years in me, and I know I'm getting older, but right now my main focus is getting healthy. And then once I get healthy, I feel like I can play, then I'm going to try to go play somewhere. It's not really I still love the game. I love the grind. I love going in there practicing. I love waking up on game day. And so I'm not really ready to give that up just quite yet. I'm still chasing it.
Any aspirations on coaching?
None right now. I think it's I would have to, I don't know. I'm scared to dip into coaching.
Why?
It's just, for me, you have to have a lot of patience, and there's a lot more obstacles now. I think in today's society, I think it's difficult because there's I would say it's a little more sensitive than it used to be, and your approach with people has to be kind of finessed to where they're not offended. And I think the biggest impact you can have on coaching a kid would be probably at the high school level or at the professional level, because once at college, it just seems and I'm not pointing at UNC when I say this. I think this is just a broad statement. I'm probably wrong, but this is just how I feel. I think at college level they have a lot of outside voices, and so I think kids have a hard time kind of toning that out, and so it's really hard to get their attention and have a big influence. So I think you could have a bigger influence in high school or at the professional level because they're willing to make that money and listen more. But in high school, they want to get to the college level.
There was an announcement this past week. I'm not sure how closely you follow it or know much about it, but G.G. Jackson, I guess a top-rated player in next year's class, that committed to North Carolina, then he decommitted. What do you know about that? Why do you think that happened? And what does that say anything at all about UNC at all?
I don't follow recruiting, but I did read about this one. Apparently this was a big-time recruit, and he can really hoop. So I know we really wanted him at Carolina, but going to South Carolina apparently. But yeah, I don't know. We're going to be good without GG or not. I mean, obviously, I think the program would love to have him, but North Carolina's, it wasn't built on one person. So I think we'll still be fine. But I would like to have the best players at Carolina, just like I'm sure Coach Davis and their coaching staff would like to have them a little bit more than me. But no, I don't know what's going to come of that.
So before we get to talking about your podcast, I'd like for you to take just about a minute and a half and explain to my friend Senator Bill Stanley how you and I managed to get a bar in Chapel Hill renamed from Bob's to Hermie's.
All right.
Well, hey, we're in Chapel Hill, and Hermie hits me up. I think he's him and Cora are going to this other, going to have some drinks somewhere.
Yeah, it was the last day of classes at school for Cora her senior year.
Yeah, so it was a big night for the students, and me and Hermie. So I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you at this little bar. So we go to this little dive bar and have some drinks, blah blah blah. And they really want to go to Bob's, and so we'll go to Bob's. Me and Hermie, we'll go to Bob's. And so, anyways, Cora and her friend, they just walk right into Bob's, and then the bouncer just kind of puts his hey, it's a private event tonight. And we're like, what do you mean it's a private event? And
I'm Tyler Hansbrough. What are you talking about?
And they're like, I guess this is what they do for, looking a little older nowadays. And so they stopped us. And so Cora goes over there and so then they talk to the bouncer and like, all right, come on in, guys. And so once Hermie got in there and got it going, I'm not sure how many drinks were flowing, but I mean, there was, I think every 15 minutes, there were some drinks coming our way. And I think the bartender absolutely thought it was hilarious. And
after 8 o'clock,
we started calling that thing Hermie's instead of Bob's now.
Hey, Tyler, one more quick question, if you don't mind. When you go into the Ding Dome, all of the history, all of the banners, all of the championships, as you know, all of the retired jerseys from the college players and the NBA greats, and your jerseys hanging there beside them. And to have your jersey retired at home against Duke, can you explain what that feeling was like for you as a first and foremost as a man, but also as an athlete, to see that your journey had really come back full circle at that point?
Yeah, no, it was
against Duke.
Yeah, it was a huge deal for me. Well, that was when I was out of school, but I came back for the Duke game. Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal to be up there with, Phil Ford, Antoine Jameson, those guys, and knowing knowing the history behind Carolina basketball and who has played there, Michael Jordan, all those guys, just to be in the rafters is a big deal. But be front row, blue jersey, was a huge deal for me. But also, I think once you get your name up in the rafters, it's also recognition for yourself, but it's also recognition for, for my family, my community, also my teammates who are with me. And so it was a huge deal, and especially to have a banner, the 09 banner on the other end, our national championship banner with my jersey on the other end, that was huge for me. But to be in that category of players is, Jordan, Phil, Antoine, and all those guys, I mean, it's still a little surreal to me, to be honest.
So one of the things we have in common, and I want Senator Stanley to kind of chime in on this because we do one together too, but
it ain't your height.
What?
It ain't your height.
It ain't my height. Yeah, I know it.
It's a sponsor.
But you guys, you and a friend of yours who I've gotten to know over the years, Brandon, we call him Sleep. You guys are also doing a podcast. Tell us why you started doing a podcast. What's your relationship like with Brandon? What is your podcast about? What is it like? And then we'll talk more about what the future of your podcast may look like. Going down the road.
Yeah, and how it affects your relationship with your friend. I'm really kind of personal about that one, especially when he starts name dropping your wife all the time. Maybe you could talk about that.
Hey, so Brandon, we met. We were college buddies.
Can we talk about why he got the nickname Sleep first of all?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Sleep in college. We used to all go to this bar called La Res, and so Sleep wasn't a late night guy, and so once he got some drinks in him, a few popper bluffs, he just liked to put his head down and take a little nap at the bar, and so before you know it, people were just saying, "Oh no, that's all right, that's Sleep, just leave him, he'll be good here in a few hours," and so. Ever since college, that's where he got his nickname Sleepy. So everyone calls him Sleepy. And so we started playing a lot of golf, and we became a lot closer after college. And so one day on the golf course, we're playing with our buddy, and we came up with the idea to start a podcast. And Sleep's a pretty funny guy. And so, he actually worked for the school newspaper when we were in college, the Daily Tar Heel. And so he's been in he's been in journalism for a little bit. And so, he got real excited about it. And we've been doing it for almost a year now. And we talk about anything and everything. We started out the podcast talking about the Bachelorette TV show because that's what our listeners wanted. And so kind of gave it a little uniqueness. Even though Sleep has never watched one of those shows, I've watched a couple of them before. And so we started breaking down those relationships. And now we do.
You move on to the Real Housewives.
Yeah, we've got a Tar Heel following. We just kind of stuck to basketball and local stuff, and so we're still willing to talk about anything and everything. Lately, we've been doing cookie reviews, and Sleep's gotten really into baseball cards, sport cards. So we break it all down, and we just kind of talk and. We take questions and we talk about real life stuff.
Do y'all take live questions like during the show? Is it
interactive?
Interactive?
Not yet, but we will. We want to get to the point where people can just call in or just send us a question and we just take it immediately and talk about it.
So they need a Hermie's answering machine.
Yeah, we can help on production. Chad Monday and I can give you some tips because. What we do is on our production is if it irritates Hermie and makes us laugh, it's in. So that's how we handle whatever we do, and it kind of we play with some things.
Last week, Tyler, they off the record slid in an answer machine question that came from a disgruntled customer at my car wash in Petersburg, and the voicemail was like 4 minutes long.
Yeah, saying that Hermie hired crackheads.
It was legit. It was legit.
And it was legit. Yeah, we have an answering machine, like one of those old-fashioned answering machines. We make Hermie read a script that we write that is usually funny to us, and Hermie takes it in good stride, and that's the answer machine. And then it beeps, and then we have somebody who puts on Facebook. You can put it right there on a button on Facebook where somebody will ask you a question, and then you can play it on your podcast. And we've had some hilarious questions, and we make Hermie answer them if he doesn't reach across the table and punch me in the face. and it's pretty fun. So, we'd love to help you with that.
So what are you and Brandon? What's your plan? What do you try to hope to do with the podcast? We're under the banner of Podcast Heat, Dave Green and Conrad, and WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett, and we decided to get in with a larger group of podcasts to share in some advertising and some promotional opportunities to kind of spread the word for everybody at one time. So hopefully, the listeners that we get here will be able to, we'll tag over and listen to your podcast and vice versa. But what do you plan to do? Or what are your aspirations as far as your podcast?
Well, we really, our whole theme behind SleepHawk Worldwide, which is what our podcast is called. We're on every platform, so check us out. Our whole theme is we will never be dictated on, what our approach should be or how we're never going to be finessed what to say. We're going to give real life, honest answers, and people can deal with that if they want. But, our whole thing is we want to talk about real life stuff, but also right now we're UNC heavy. So we focus on a lot of what's going on locally here in Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Durham, and stuff like that. And we talk about sports a lot as well. But we really don't have an end game. We just know that we want to build a big audience and interact with a lot of, maybe Tar Heel alum or, see where, we can take our podcast. But, we're real excited. We're still trying to get the feel for how to do it, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Hermie, would you be interested in sharing your sponsor with Tyler to try to help them out with some sponsorship money?
You mean how I went about getting a sponsor?
Well, I was
Tyler. The joke is I was able to, as a co-host of the podcast, able to coerce Senator Stanley's wife into playing a pretty major role sponsorship-wise
On your part.
But it took a long time, Tyler, and a lot of hard work and constantly staying behind her to get and pushing her along for her to say yes.
I think if you added to Hawk and at the end of it, SleepHawk Shep, I think you're going to have a great podcast there because he's going to have some availability after this program. But, I tell you,
my calendar's open.
I hope that one of you will be able to, when manscaped.com comes, the ultimate male grooming kit comes to you and wants to advertise, that one of you doesn't get cold feet because his wife thinks it's beneath him to talk about shaving his balls. And it wasn't me, by the way, Hermie.
Yeah, it wasn't you. It wasn't you.
We would pump out Manscaped, extremely important, especially Sleep's a little hairy, so he could definitely escape a little bit with that thing. But
have you ever seen Hermie without a shirt? Jesus,
I hope
freaking
not.
Sasquatch.
I hope I don't.
It's like no, dude. It's like a snack-sized Sasquatch. It's like a little fun size.
And Tyler, that's coming from Hermie, whose wrestling move was called the reverse teabag. We named that last week.
Yeah. The joke is here, have fun at Hermie's expense. And, as we're talking about, in Senator Stanley's words, shaving balls, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, Naomi and Cora just listening, and I'll get a text. Congratulations, Dad.
Wait a minute. The story, Tyler, the story behind this is, so the sponsor sends us a free box because they want us to try the product so we can talk testimonial.
Sample.
Yeah. So I knew, and he willingly gave out his address, by the way. So the box comes to his front doorstep, and he's not paying attention. And what you said, one of your daughters,
Naomi. Naomi videos the whole thing, opens the box and says, "Oh, gee, Dad, look, ball toner." I mean,
So
it's really a proud dad moment. Yeah, proud dad moment.
So guess who was going to be reading that ad? It wasn't going to be him. It was me, because by the time he got on the phone with me, he was in one of those, Stanley, I swear, I'm not reading this thing. I have nothing to do with this. And so I read it, and I'm a state senator, so...
Yeah, but that's the difference. You already won. Yeah.
Yeah, then you won.
Tyler, I just want to make sure before we let you go that you don't feel any, you don't hold me any less regard as a friend simply because Senator Stanley and I decided to sue the governor of Virginia. You okay with that?
I love the lawsuit. I absolutely love it. And I would do the same. I would hope somebody would do the same thing if something ever were to happen like that in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, because, I'm all about the people and the hardworking people every single day. No big time corporations going to come in and try to, put them out of business or take advantage of them. So I love what you guys are doing, and you have my support.
Thanks. That means a lot,
awesome.
Tyler. It really does. And hey, listen, if we ever get a chance to, for having Hermie and myself on your guys' podcast, and we can talk about the Shahs of Sunset or one of those other Bravo TV shows with you. My wife watches that stuff religiously, so I have to watch it. So I'm more than willing to go on there and talk about that stuff. And then Hermie, you can talk about UNC basketball.
Yeah,
it'll be the best show they'd ever had.
or ball toner.
I think they just invited themselves, Tyler.
Hey, we'd love to have you guys on anytime. Thank you.
Look, I'm gonna send you the date.
I can cook
Tyler,
too, so I can do baking.
Listen,
I can
I'm
do
making a
baking
deal
tips,
right now.
Cookie tips.
I'm making a deal. I'm gonna send you the date for the golf tournament in South Hill, Tyler, and I want you and Sleep to come and bring your equipment. I'm gonna get Senator Stanley to come play golf with us.
I'll bring the Manscaped.
And he'll bring the Manscaped, and we'll tape y'all's podcast like we did last time after the golf thing downstairs, and get Senator Stanley on y'all's as well. So we'll work towards making that happen if we can get the dates to work up.
He can sample the Manscaped on the golf balls.
Hey,
That's right.
would love that. Thanks for having me on, guys.
This is great. Thanks, Tyler.
Tyler, thank you. We'll continue to follow your podcast, and good luck getting healthy and getting back on the court. And I'll be down to Chapel Hill. We'll go over to Hermie's real soon and have some popular bluff. So thank you again for
Sounds
for
good.
being
Thanks,
on.
guys. See you.
Senator?
See you, Herb.
Thank you. Go Heels. This
Good
was
luck.
another great
Thank you,
podcast. Thank you, Tyler. It's been a
Thank
real
you.
honor and a pleasure. You're now my favorite Tar Heel.
Well, I appreciate it.
Hermie, see, there you go, baby. You're
Always-
no longer my favorite Tar Heel, man. But what a show! I mean, we just keep delivering.
Tyler's great. He's a good friend and obviously a once in a generation type college basketball player. If you look at stats alone, there's no college basketball player that accomplished more or did more things in a college career than Tyler Hansbrough.
Yeah, and just keeps moving forward and still wants to play, still loves to play. I love how, if you think about it, and it's just like being, I don't know, same thing when we talk at Hermie, you always focus, you say, what's that one game you remember? Man, when I missed that shot.
It was the loss.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
But
He
see, that's
said
what
the one
champions
game
are made of.
him that really irks him is not the national championship.
The Kansas.
It's the Final Four loss the previous year to Kansas.
Yeah. I mean, that says a lot. And that's a lot, I think, when it goes to character and integrity, too. Mm-hmm. Because, you can rest on your laurels. It's always nice to hold up the trophy. But you don't learn jack squat from that. What you remember and what gets at you and even gnaws at you is when that one you lost. And I mean, it happens for me in court cases. I can lose a case that I never thought I'd win. It still bugs the crap out of me. He can make fun of me and really get to me, Hermie can. And I remember that. But I don't remember all the funny crap I do against him.
Hermie, was this another one of the guests that you have delivered?
Yeah.
Just another, star-packed podcast
And look,
of guests.
I didn't want to say this because
SleepHawk and the Shep will be appearing every Wednesday on Podcast Heat.
a lot like Senator Stanley, there's certain things that really gets under Tyler's skin, and he tries real hard. He tries real hard to let it roll, but he has a hard time doing it. One of them is just about every time Cora and I go to Chapel Hill, we get together with Tyler, have dinner somewhere, and then we walk down Franklin Street or walk to the Dean Dome, do whatever. And there's always a steady stream of people, like the college students now that are on campus, are always coming up and saying, Tyler, I remember when I was 7 years old, man, you were a legend. When I was just getting out of the crib, you were the man. And Tyler's like, hey, thanks, man.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, but he is. Cora and I just laugh because we see Tyler getting mad or sentimental or whatever the word is, because somebody's always saying, man, I remember, my first grade lunchbox, was a Tyler Hansbrough lunchbox, and all this stuff. And Tyler's like, dude, man, but Cora and I, every opportunity we get, we bring it up because we know it bothers him, much like many things bother Senator Stanley.
And
It must bother you and all that. My grandfather loved when you raised Hermie.
And I mentioned it to Tyler, but when you go to that Dean Dome and those lights cut off, and Hermie's, you're there all the time. When those flash bulbs start going and Jump Around kicks on, I don't care really what team you pull for, who you're a fan of, but to be in that environment, in that excitement, to feel that energy and electricity, it is something that everybody should go experience. It is unreal.
Now, you think Tyler never played against him, but do you think he hates Christian Laettner like you do?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even never played, but he hates just because he wore the powder blue, the baby blue.
He's all Tar Heel all the time. And I never really got him to say it, but the fact that he went 4-0 at Duke and never lost in Cameron Indoor Stadium, he will tell you after some popular bluffs that is one of the things he is most proud of as a Carolina player.
There's probably not many that can say that.
Not many.
Don't you think maybe the Duke fans think he's their version of Christian Laettner, the UNC version? I mean, he delivered victory 4 times in a row in their home.
He's hated by the Dukies, no question about it.
Is that right?
I'm just impressed by another, Star Pack podcast. Hermie, you just keep delivering.
Look, somebody's got to bring stuff to the table here.
You just keep delivering.
Me and Chad, and you kick in, but we can't do it all.
Hey, you just can't do it all. Not all the time.
Can't do it all.
What am I supposed to do?
Chad. We're going to take care of this right friggin' now. You get me?
As a good friend of ours, Ronnie Wells, would say, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Well, I want to meet that guy too. A great podcast, yes indeed.
A lot of fun.
Tyler
and thanks to Paysomatic again for all their support, for giving us the platform that we have to bring this podcast to our listeners.
Well, and really, we want to thank the listeners. You, the listener, makes all the difference. We're growing exponentially. It's been really an amazing ride so far. We're looking forward to more of it. We've got more people in the hopper ready to come on this podcast, and we just love doing it, and it's been fun doing it here at the mothership at the Stanley Law Group. Make sure you support the podcast, Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and Senator, on Facebook, on Twitter at Sadler Senator. That's the Sadler Senator Facebook, Twitter handle that got Hermie in trouble with me because I thought he was running and announced for state senate. He hasn't yet, but we're still hopeful.
We are kind of waiting on that.
We are waiting on that. And, you can always go to www.sadlerstanleyracing.com. You can get your fill of Sadler and Stanley. We've got the race team on there with the race events. We keep you up to date on all of that. And you can listen to every episode through that portal right there, or you can listen to us on every major platform, Spotify, iPhones, everywhere that you find your podcast, you will find Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. Another great episode in the books. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm Leaning Right.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left. Happy birthday, Senator Bill Stanley.
Thank you, my friend.
We appreciate it. We laugh and joke and have a good time.
I love it.
But we really appreciate everything you do. We love you, too. And another edition, thanks to Paysomatic.
I like Shep okay. He's
the Q-tip is getting older.
He's moving down. I'm starting to think they might, those guys on the other members of town council might be onto something. They might have something right, that he's just a rabble-rouser.
I've just gone to heel switch.
He's just a meddler. He's a meddlesome guy.
I've gone heel with Hermie against you today.
Clearly. We're setting up little lines here. I'm going to have to get Chad a microphone, and we can just nerd versus nerd.
So thanks for listening this week. Appreciate the support, and we'll see you next week with wrestling superstar Mickie James.
God bless you all. Take care.
Get the house you want with the payment you want at buywithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this at buywithconrad.com. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. The first step to buying a house is buywithconrad.com.